So check this one out, folks. I actually really like this governor, Ron DeSantis. So I'm originally from Florida. All right. I'm born in Florida, born in Margate. It's about 30 minutes north of Miami, about 15 minutes north of Fort Lauderdale, maybe 40 minutes north of Miami. But DeSantis has done a great job. I really like him, and he's got a set on him, man. He's got ball. You know, it's funny. The Democrats down there, right? Like Broward County and South is all blue. Florida is kind of like Washington or Cali, where it's just a couple of the big cities down south that make them swing states or blue state. Well, you know, Cali and Washington are blue states, but Florida could head there one day if Miami and Fort Lauderdale and Palm Beach doesn't get control of their Democrat problem. But let me tell you, DeSantis has done a great job. When I lived in Florida, it was the height of the opioid pandemic, right? We had drug problems. We had murders. We had horrible things, all right? My own father was involved in the drugs and the problems down there. We haven't talked in like 20 years, but, you know, it is what it is. But DeSantis, he is just, God, walloping the left. You know, I would vote for DeSantis. DeSantis is like Trump policy, but man, he can talk. He can talk to anyone from any world, right? Whether you're an elite, whether you're a pleb, whatever you are, DeSantis can translate his message to you. I think Trump sometimes had issues with that. I love Trump. Trump's like a bulldozer. And look, I'm like a bulldozer, so I get it. I'm from the East Coast. I get that attitude. I understand, and a lot of us understand. But somebody like Ron DeSantis doesn't give the left much ammunition. And I'll tell you, he can talk. And he seems to know his stuff. Arguably, the best governor during this coronavirus, this China virus nonsense. All right. This is Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. This is a picture of him speaking at a press conference held at Bayview Elementary School in Fort Lauderdale. I know exactly where that is. I've driven by it 100 times. Obviously, I don't live down there anymore. But if you are from South Florida, if you ever end up in Fort Lauderdale, there's a sub shop down there. There's a sub shop called La Spada's Subs. Now, I'm not vouching for them. They're most likely a left-wing joint, all right? I'm not saying they are. I just know who used to work in there like 20 years ago. I haven't been there for like 20 years, so it might not be. I might be talking right out of my butt. But these subs are to die for. So really quick, before we read this article, I want to show you what La Spada's Subs looks like. Look at this. La Spada's. You're going to see this sub and then hate me for the rest of this video. All right. And I'm going to do my best to describe it so those listening can hear. Oh, yeah. Look at that. Do you see these different pictures here? You see how they do this? Look at this. You could just Google them. They're famous. Look at that. That is a white hoagie. All right. A big, soft, pillowy, melt in your mouth. Yeah, we're going to describe this for the people listening. We start with a 16-inch long white piece of bread, a hoagie, a soft, delicious hoagie, and we cut it open. And then we load a crap ton of meat on it, load a crap ton of toppings on it, and load a crap ton more meat on it. That's the best description I can give. No, but folks, really, what they do is say you order like a roast beef, right? Look at that delicious. Look at this picture right here. The roast beef is nice and rare. It's red. It's beautiful. You see how they have it wrapped here? They take the bread, they slather on. They literally got like that mayonnaise knife that Hulk Hogan was using in that movie where he dressed as a ballerina. What was it called? Mr. Nanny? Back in the 90s. You remember that? Mr. Nanny? He electrocuted himself in the shower and he's like, anyway. He had this big knife, right? They spread the mayonnaise on the bread. Then they freshly slice your boar's head meat, all right? Roast beef, all that. They load it on there, cheese, lettuce, and they do something that most places don't, especially on the West Coast. These are called sweet peppers, these green and red peppers, and they're like candied peppers. They're sweet. They taste like hot peppers, but they're sweet, like they've been dipped in sugar. It's delicious on a sandwich. Guys, if you're ever in Fort Lauderdale, go to Las Spadas. I've talked way too long. They should be paying me for this plug. I should be going down there with Dave Portnoy and saying, one bite, everybody knows the rules. We're doing the sub challenge, folks. But no, we're not doing that. Instead, I'm just torturing myself and you with this picture of this beautiful, delicious sub. That's really what I miss about the East Coast, folks. Just the food. All right. Look, Pacific food's delicious, right? I love sushi. I love there's teriyaki joint everywhere, right? But God, a good slice of pizza and a good sandwich, a good deli sandwich. Oh my God, I would be in heaven, ladies and gentlemen. But until then, the closest thing to heaven is going to be reading about Florida Governor DeSantis and how he's going to penalize big tech companies for unlawful practices. This is February 2nd. All right. February 2nd, 2021 by Masuma Haq. All right. We're going to read it. This is the Epic Times. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis announced the consequences that big tech companies like Facebook, Twitter, and Google will face if they violate the privacy of Floridians and interfere with citizens' access to candidates during an election. The Republican governor criticized the manipulation of news and censorship of certain individuals while detailing the new legislation's harsh penalties during a press conference from the Florida Capitol on Tuesday. Quote, Floridians should have the privacy of their data and personal information protected, their ability to access and participate in online platforms protected, and their ability to participate in elections free from interference from big tech protected. Mr. DeSantis, here, huzzah, sir. I agree with you 10 million %. Let's get Parler back on. Let's unshadow ban everyone. Look, I don't necessarily think Twitter and Facebook are going away, but I do think that they can be broken up. They can be destroyed. They can be pulled apart. They can be ripped apart. They can be made free and fair for everyone without a Zuckerberg at the helm, without a Dorsey at the helm. And the government's going to have to do a lot of this. So they'll be there. They'll be here, in my opinion. One might not. Maybe Facebook will disappear. They don't care about it as much anymore, but they'll be here. And when they are, they'll just be these open, gutted platforms. And when Zuckerberg is looking in the mirror, wondering what happened to his old company, he'll have to tell himself that he should have just done the right thing. Quote, he said that over the years, these platforms have changed from neutral platforms that provided Americans with the freedom to speak to enforcers of preferred narratives. All right. They literally changed from neutral platforms, right, that provide Americans the freedom to speak. And now they are enforcers, mafia enforcers, communist, socialist, freaking tyrannical enforcers, ladies and gentlemen, of the preferred narrative, the approved narrative. Remember, folks, right now in China, they're burning religious books. They're burning them in piles stacked high to the sky. They're burning religious books because the only religion you can worship in China, the only religion you can worship is the Chinese Communist Party. And we're not too far away from that here, ladies and gentlemen. Consequently, these platforms have played an increasingly decisive role in elections and have negatively impacted Americans who dissent from orthodoxies favored by the big tech cartel. DeSantis alluded to the tech giants moderating news that was unfavorable to President Joe Biden, banning high-profile conservatives, including President Donald Trump, from Twitter, all right, and Facebook, and their removal of the Parler social media platform from Amazon's servers. The Parler social media platform that's costing us 15,000 views a month. All right. And cutting off those good people from real information. Quote, when 2.8 million Americans chose to download the application Parler and share information with friends, family, and colleagues, what was the result of that? Canceled by Amazon, Google, and Apple, said DeSantis. DeSantis called for open, robust debate on issues that affect Americans rather than the outright censorship that big tech companies are currently engaging in. The governor said that companies are discriminating against citizens when they change their rules as it suits them, without warning or consistency. Under the new measure from the Florida legislature, the technology companies that deplatform a candidate during an election will face a daily fine of $100,000 until the candidate's access to the platform is restored. So basically, Facebook will get fined out of the state of Florida. You have to understand that Facebook's an entity, right? And a business as an entity gets treated a little bit differently. So, for example, you can be sued by a state. You can be fined by a state. Now imagine like getting a parking ticket in California and moving to New York. You may forget about them. You may never pay them. So a lot of people do argue that this isn't as strong as a federal rule. But if we get enough things like this across the country in enough states, it will cause so much damage. But, you know, even if this is just the precursor to a run, right? A run for president for DeSantis eventually. And this is the basis of his anti-social media meddling policies. I'll still take it. It's a step in the right direction, folks. You have to take small wins. You can't sit there and say, this isn't the big one. We're going to pass. You're going to pass your way into total defeat and annihilation, folks. Zoom out. Look at the big picture. This is battle by battle. This is a campaign, folks. Plain and simple. Long-term strategy. If a technology company promotes a candidate for office against another, the value of that free promotion must be recorded as a political campaign contribution enforced by Florida election commissions. The bill will also empower the Florida Attorney General to bring action against big tech companies under Florida's Unfair and Deceptive Practices Act if they violate the new policies laid out in the bill. Remember what I told you, folks. We have to take this attack local. We have to take the pressure local. We have to fight big tech. We have to fight the voter fraud at a state and local level. You keep telling me it can't be done. That looks like something's getting done. You duplicate that in enough states, ladies and gentlemen, you put a hurting on big tech. All right. Tech companies would have to give users advance notice of a rule change before shutting down an account and apply the rule consistently. And quote, lastly, if a technology company uses their content and user-related algorithms to suppress or prioritize the access of any content related to a political candidate or cause on the ballot, that company will face daily fines. I love it. Love it. Respect, Mr. DeSantis, much respect. Florida's House Speaker Chris Sprouse said, quote, with our proposal, we're going to bring into the sunshine what I call the 5 families of darkness. Facebook, Twitter, Google, Amazon, and Apple. Excuse me. He said the 5 families of darkness. These actors won't go unchecked here in Florida anymore. Remember, guys, GOP legislature in Pennsylvania, GOP legislature in a lot of these blue states across the country. You give the power back to the legislature with enough people pushing them in the right direction, you see things like this get passed. It might not hurt them that bad in one state, but man, oh man, it would hurt them in 30, 40, 50 states. Damn right it would. Damn right it would. Quote, they have access to private information and the ability to exercise control over the individual's free speech, Sprouse said. We're pushing the barriers to finally call out their convoluted and inconsistent standards for censoring, banning, and deplatforming. Twitter, Facebook, and Google did not immediately respond for a request to comment. Folks, it's high time we the people teach big tech and social media a lesson. It's high time they know who they're effing with. It's high time the power return to the people. So how are we going to do that? Through violence? No, not at all. That's not how it's done. Not how it's done. You see the result of what happens when American citizens attack. You don't do it that way. You do it the right way. You do it through hearts and minds. You do it through a campaign of the people, peaceful protest, peaceful civil unrest, and peaceful pressure against your local officials. And if those local officials suck, get rid of them. Vote them out. Ladies and gentlemen, that is how you do it. All right? All right? Head to the website, www.americanreveille.com. Do me this favor, all right? Hit it up. hit it up. If you loved this podcast, if you like what we're doing and you feel like supporting us, hit the support us tab. We take Bitcoin. You can go on PayPal. We take any amount of donation. We appreciate it greatly. Guys, it really helps. It goes a huge way while we're fighting off this censorship. We have some new articles tracing the real pandemic. It's fantastic. And also, Andrew Penn put out Joe Biden's America Last Agenda, a great one as well. I have another article coming out tonight too. Folks, sign up for the mailing list. Please. You don't want to lose touch with what we are doing across this country. And please contact us if you have any feedback, if there's anything you'd like to ask me, if there's any way you believe you can contribute with any of your skill sets, or if you'd like to start building up an American Reveille street team in your neighborhood, please let me know. JAMESLANE at AmericanReveille.com, JAMESLANE@AmericanReveille.com, or you can hit the contact button or go to AmericanReveille.com and then hit the contact button. Folks, we're still on YouTube, so if that's where you're watching us, please subscribe, hit the notification bell, leave a comment, share. But they are shadow banning us. That's why you'll notice that we were getting thousands of views, and now all of a sudden we're barely getting any. That's called shadow banned, all right? So we're moving a lot of our stuff to Odyssey. This is a great platform, ODYSEE.com, all right? Most of my videos are up there. Most of them are up there, and I like them. I think they're a great platform. They're easy to use. It feels like YouTube, so it could be our version of YouTube. Try it out, ODYSEE.com. I'm there as American_Reveille. Of course, the links will be in the description below, and of course, I'm on Rumble, guys. I am on Rumble as well. Head over to rumble.com, find me American_Reveille. I'm in the comment section below, or I'm in the description section. You can find the link there. Head over here, subscribe, hit the notification bell. I need all the support I can get. We are having a very big hit to our distribution. People are not seeing what we're putting out because they killed Parler. And like I told you in the podcast episode, we don't even know if Parler's coming back. So we got to start from scratch. So I need your help, folks. Please help. All right. We can do this together. We really can. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, guys, 5-star rating, leave a review, please. That's a big deal. Subscribe there, follow me there, share. If you are an audio listener, I am on most platforms. American Reveille Podcast on most platforms, folks. If you're a listener and you know people who like AM radio and different things like that, tell them about the American Reveille, please. I need your help, and I'm depending on you to really spread the word, all right? We're doing everything we can. You know that I barely sleep and eat. I'm putting it out. I'm putting the hours in, folks, for you, for me, for everybody, folks. So I appreciate it. I thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and I will see you in the next segment. Bye.